All right, guys, how you doing? It's Simon and Rosemary here again with our podcast. Today we're going to discuss NLP, Neuro-linguistics programming, and I'm going to hand a lot of this over to Rosemary because she is the practitioner, so she's going to get the background, and I'm going to pop in with probably useless points of order every so often. That Rosemary's going to say, "No, that's wrong. Don't say that." So sorry, Rosemary, I've already taken over. Hello.
All right, hi everyone. To start off, what is NLP? So NLP is basically the acronym for Neuro-linguistic programming. Its application is a lot in therapy counselling, but it can be applied to many different areas of your life. So first of all, neuro is basically we're talking about the brain, the mindset, your neurology and your thoughts and how it interacts with your body. Linguistic is the language of your mind. So it's not just verbal. We're talking about non-verbal language, your physiology. And programming is basically the programs that we have within our brains or our mindsets that generate our behaviours and our habits in life.
Right. So this is basically a technique is connecting the psychological to the physiological.
Definitely.
Is it about getting you to enact what your goals and aspirations are actually physically manifestation of, or is it more of a mindset?
It's a mashup of different things. Now, if you ask a different person who has learned NLP, each person will say, come up with a different definition because there is no one definition for it. Overall, most people would say it's like a user manual for your mind. But to give you an example, say you go to a restaurant in a foreign country and you order steak and they come out with fish. So the communication wasn't there. There's obviously something lost in translation. So this is referring to the way we have the translation is lost from our conscious and our subconscious or unconscious. So we might want things in life. So we're looking at having more money, being happy, being healthy and fit and losing weight. But if we're not getting those things, then there's something not right. So there's something a bit skew with, and it's usually our neurology, our unconscious, that is driving what we're getting. So if we're not getting what we want, we need to get to the core of that, and we need to look closer at our overall patterns, our beliefs, and our habits to see what is stopping us, get a change through certain, specific techniques and processes in NLP, and change our mindset. So it's a little bit like, I guess, think about rewiring your brain. If you sort of plug something into a socket and it's sparking and you're not getting the right messages through, so your computer isn't working, you would change, the wiring to it. So it's the same thing about your brain. You're looking at your neurons, your neurology, your patterns, and just, breaking some of those, getting rid of them, and then rewiring it with some new mindset changes.
So assisting with behaviour change.
Well, yeah, it's starting off with beliefs, and that is because our beliefs and our values, what we grow up with, is basically what drives us into adulthood and everything we do. So picking up beliefs and values and principles from a very, very young age, from the time we're born, basically.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you can use this in any, because interesting enough, like I remember hearing about NLP from my auntie many, many years ago, not really buying into it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine is a psychologist, was a professional practicing psychologist at the time, massive advocate, massive fan of it. It was something that was sort of bantered around that I've heard about that I never knew anything about. But the actual people who put it together was from a psychological background as well. They were therapists or something?
Yes. So Bandler and Grinder, who basically, one was like a linguistic professor. Bandler was more into IT and computers, but what they did was study. This is where the word modelling comes from. NLP is about modelling. So what it basically means is if somebody is, excellent at doing a task or a skill, and you can model that, so you can basically break it down, replicate it, and do the same yourself. So if you want to be successful, say like a celebrity or, public speaker, you just model everything about them, the way they talk, behave, because their physiology will then infiltrate into your physiology, your neurons, and you will start to get the same outcome.
Right.
So, and so these two guys, Bandler and Grinder, they studied really successful therapists. There was 3 of them. And because they always had success with all their clients. So they basically modeled what they did, and they tweaked it a little bit to, develop NLP. And ever since then, it's just sort of gone, full scale. Used across the board, so communication, so you know people better, you can have better relationships. It's used for negotiation skills through business. It's used for schools, so people with memory and learning, better learning skills. So there's a whole lot of things, personal development, for you to reach your goals, strategies, and for you to break bad habits and behaviors, so self-sabotage and things like that. So, in fitness, in sports, it's used for people to perform better, and for children to make sure that they don't grow up with, major issues like a lot of kids do today. So by bringing them up a certain way, teaching them these skills from a very young age, they won't have those patterns, those negative patterns, yeah.
So you can actually basically use it to improve eating habits, improve training habits, improve performance generally.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, so, definitely, yeah.
So if you're one of these people that are going, I can't seem to be motivated to start exercising, I can't seem to be motivated to make change, I don't know where to start, NLP can basically put it there.
Oh, definitely. These processes are quite instant. They last about anything between 3 to 5 minutes, depending on what the issue is. If it's a really deep-seated issue with a lot of baggage, it sometimes could take about 6 sessions or more, but most little things can actually be overcome within 1 or 2 sessions, which is brilliant because it's permanent. So whereas if you go to see a psychologist, some people go for years and they discuss the problem. So, if you're trying to get rid of a problem, why would you focus on it? So NLP teaches you that you get what you focus on. So when someone comes to me with a problem, we don't focus on the problem, we focus on the solution. And we sort of delve down deep to see where this problem is coming from, or, they could have self-sabotage within them, but that might have been triggered by something when they were, 5 years of age. So once we get to the bottom of that, we choose, there are hundreds of processes, so just depending whatever suits that client for their issue, we will choose that process and then go through that.
Right.
It's quite simple. And, a lot of it's a matter of them shutting their eyes, and a lot of it's visualization and just going back in time, and it's called time therapy. There's a bit of hypnosis, but not necessarily going under. There's what they call conversational hypnosis. So get them to shut their eyes, and then with your voice you can write a little paragraph to, say what you need to get into their subconscious. So we're targeting their subconscious all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So just basically giving who's ever working at the tools to, and this is another thing as well, when they leave a session, it's not like, okay, well, that session's over, hopefully something's happened. It's like, you've got a lack of a better term, homework that you can continue referring back to. Because you keep talking about anchors all the time.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure.
Okay, so an anchor is something that triggers a response. We've all got anchors. We wake up in the morning and we go into the bathroom to brush our teeth, and, the alarm goes off, it's time to get up and we get dressed. And, there's several anchors that we use in life all the time. We see a red light, we stop the car. So an anchor, we can put positive anchors onto a person so that they're feeling good. So basically, very quickly, just to tell you how it works, you get them to think of a time, if they've got no confidence, a time when they were feeling extremely confident, they shut their eyes, they go back to the time. You ask them when they peak at that confident level. And the anchor might be me just touching them on the wrist for about 5 to 10 seconds, putting a bit of pressure and leaving it. And we do this 2 or 3 times. So in future, whenever they touch themselves on that same spot, it brings them into that confident state. So all of a sudden, if they're feeling nervous, that's their anchor. They'll touch that spot and their whole state changes. So that's an anchor. And, you can do different anchors. You can stack anchors, so you can have more than one. And you can even collapse anchors. So if they've got something that's negative happening, you can take that and collapse it.
So generally assisting in building a more positive mental approach.
Definitely,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like you putting on a song and you feel good, and it brings good memories.
Yeah.
So those are anchors. So it's about putting something positive and helping the physiology of your body to change its state, so to get you to a more positive state.
Something sort of energizes you to make a change initially at that stage. So like
yes,
as you said,
exactly,
a song, do something. That's it.
Yeah.
Because the one thing I was listening to a motivational speaker, and they were talking about, was it energize energy, where once you've got that in your head, you kind of got 5 seconds to action it before the energy goes. So you like sort of get that as like a classic thing where you talk to sports psychologists when they talk about behavioural change, where you see a pair of shoes when you wake up in the morning, you see the pair of shoes, always going to go for a run. You got 5 seconds to go for a run, get up, go put the shoes on and get going. So it's kind of having that kind of mindset in a sense.
Yeah, exactly, because I think the more we think things through, we need to trust our subconscious more, and thinking things through too much can sometimes make us, make the wrong decisions or not do something. So it's about taking the initiative straight away without allowing our conscious mind to come in or our unconscious mind to come in and start talking us out of something. So it's about, okay, seeing that, let's go, let's do it. And like Nike says, let's do it. So it's not sitting back and let me think about this. And that's why so many people never make the right decisions in life, because they take too much time to try and think things through.
Right, overthink things basically.
Overthink things. I mean, some things you've got to think through, certain aspects of your life and the decisions you make. But overall, if you want to do something, we basically say just go for it. Because if you take action, it's going to happen. You're going to get the outcome. But if you sit thinking about it, it might be 6 months down the track and you're still thinking about it.
It's so true. It's like there's certain times where you need a pros and cons list for big decisions like selling a house, buying a car, where you send the kids. You get that. But there are certain times where it's like you got to make that decision. There's so many people are worried about making the wrong decision and failing. It's like, well, you're probably going to learn something if it doesn't go right anyway. I mean, and even to a point where I always say this to people, is like when you get someone who's constantly telling you what you should do as opposed to what you could do.
Yes.
It's like whatever decisions you make still have to be under your own steam, under your own sort of weight, as it were.
That's right.
Those people, I think the one, sometimes if you're wondering who in your circle that maybe you shouldn't be hanging out with anymore, find those people who sort of go, when something goes wrong, when you make a mistake, find that person that's initially going to go, told you you're going to do it wrong, told you you're wrong.
Yes.
That might be someone in your circle you might want to be very wary about.
Yeah. Another thing is to lose connection with people who do that because they're no good for you. I mean, we all grow up with people. We do well. Certain people will be happy for us, that we're genuine and want the best. And there's other people who sort of try to put you off or, in some way, because it's their inadequacy that is playing into how they're feeling. It's not you. So what we also say is just to disconnect from everything negative. It doesn't matter if you're related to people or whatever. If somebody around you is not making you feel good about yourself or cheering you on to be the best you can be, you don't need them in your life. Or very little contact at the least. So if you've got friends like that, just break your connections. Hang around people. They say the 5 people you hang around the most is the type of person you'll be. You basically morph into those sorts of people. So why wouldn't you, if you want to be successful, is get successful people around you who have that same mindset and are on the same level?
So modelling again, basically.
It is. It's modelling, yes, because we tend to pick up habits from people we hang out with and are very close to, on a daily basis. So get the best people around you and you will find that you are actually running your life differently and even thinking differently.
Exactly. And again, as you say, take action.
Take action.
I think 90% of the time, doing beats not doing.
Well, a lot of people out there know stuff. They have a lot of knowledge. But what's the point in having knowledge if you're not actually putting it into action or using it? So knowledge is basically just knowledge. It's just there in your head. It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
The reason we go out and want to learn and study and, more stuff and have knowledge is so we can actually use it to do something with it. So if you're sitting there just thinking, sometime in the future, we say there's no better time than now.
Exactly.
So you want to do something, just get off your backside and do it.
Yeah, exactly. Action, just action it. If you look back, you learn from it. If it was successful, you learn from it. If it wasn't successful, you will learn from it. And what level? I remember when we were teaching, like how many times we had to say to kids, like, "Oh, look, I would advise against that action." Like especially when we when they were doing like practical assessments and they were with a client or whatever it might be. It's like a person would advise against it. And like so many times the student would go and do their own thing. When they came back and if it didn't go well, I wouldn't sit there and point fingers. I told you it wouldn't go well. So I go, okay, well, you're just that person who has to do it under your own steam to learn from it. That's cool. You prefer to actually see it through, find out if it works. If it works, fantastic. If it didn't work, you've learned from that as well. And you got to appreciate that. Yeah. It's like one of those, that student that we said, don't give this client a multi-hybrided, complicated exercise. They won't be able to, they're more than likely you're setting up for the failure. They're going to feel a bit silly because they can't do it. So it's best to just break that exercise down into its main components and don't give it so complicated. The student went off and did the opposite. It did it anyway. And the fact that the feedback was, okay, well, no, and it did fall apart. It was an absolute mess. It was an absolute cluster mess. There was nothing, the exercise didn't get done. And I remember the client was quite volatile and sort of teed off on the student a little bit. But hey, they learnt from it. You know, okay, I get it. You didn't take the advice. You went and did your own steam. It didn't go well. But the last thing I'm going to do is sort of get in your face. And, you know, I'm not Nelson from The Simpsons. You know, hopefully what you've done is garnered information from that. You just happen to be one of those people who's like, I prefer to do and make the mistake or get the success under my own steam, as opposed to just take your advice at face value. I get that.
Can I say where that comes from too? Our subconscious it's like an eavesdropper. It's like a child. It just does whatever is said. So it doesn't relate to anything negative. So when we say to somebody, don't do that, your subconscious just hears do that. Don't do that is probably the wrong way of saying something. When we're trying to tell a child don't do something, they will initially go ahead and do it anyway. So if you want someone not to do something, you tell them what they need to do rather than what not to do.
Yeah.
And that is also coming from the subconscious. So even though we think that they've got control, their subconscious has driven them to do it anyway. Because all it's heard is, give your client that hybrid exercise because it'll be great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not always, it's like not them and their personality and they are disobeying us. It's just the way the subconscious works.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. No, that's very true. And you know, at the end of the day, how you, as you say, communicate it, whatever you get out of it, if you learn from it, it wasn't detrimental. It wasn't going to cause anyone massive harm or death or any of that sort of stuff, you know.
No.
It was within a very safe boundary and safe limit. So, you know, why not? If you've got a plan you want to put into place and you're sort of getting a bit of advice whether you should or shouldn't, it's you get to choose if you utilize that advice. You know, it's your under your own steam. It's your choice. It's within your power. Remember that even if it feels like people are telling you what to do, it's still your choice to enact that. You're still the master of your outcome.
You do have a choice, but it's also knowing the language and knowing communication. And it depends on who we're talking to or who we're teaching, because everyone has a different learning capacity. Some people are visual or auditory or kinesthetic, and, you know, you have your ID people who are more analytical. So the language, and this is what NLP teaches you, is the language we speak, how we speak to these people. If it's within their learning capacity or how they learn, they will understand us better. So this is how NLP helps with communication. Because how many times, if you've been to a party with someone and, you know, whatever happens at the party and the next day you're relating it to someone else and they turn around and go, no, it didn't happen that way. You see, everyone's got a different perspective, even though it's the same situation. So it's about learning different people's perspectives and then trying to use your communication to be on their level so they understand you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, that's excellent, Rosemary. Okay, so guys, if you are more interested in NLP, I will provide information below on how to contact Rosemary through her website and through her Facebook page. But hopefully you got a little bit more out of that. So NLP is becoming more popular. It's still probably hard to source exactly what it is. So you have to come to people who know, like Rosemary and a select few within the state. But if you want more information or you think this might be something for you, please feel free to contact her below and hopefully you can get something out of it. So thanks a lot, Rosemary. We'll wind it up.
Okay, thanks, guys. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right, guys, we're out. See ya. Bye.